Hello again, and welcome back to the RP-0 America playthrough. We're approaching using American rockets. So I figured out the glitch, the bug that I was talking about just at the end of my last video. Let me see. Let me go check my CCAN. Where are you? There we go. Yeah, it was the mod called filter extensions, which I didn't have configured properly, or only one element of it was installed, something like that. That was hiding my unpurchased parts. So those are showing in the VAB now, which is nice. Let's see, what else? Also, I figured out a glitch in, well, literally right now, Agathorn is talking to me on the Realism Overhaul IRC and explaining why I'm not getting a window popping up that I want to pop up. But anyway, so I've got my last V2 sounding rocket ready. I think it'll be my last, maybe another version or two just to farm. I might refine it slightly or something to farm a little bit of cash since, I'm going to need as much cash as I can get to the way I've set the difficulty settings. And you can see I have myself building a whole new type of rocket that'll go show off later. It's a Redstone sounding rocket. Just a basic, I'll show you when we get to it. Let's see, so first I'll launch this and then I'll go take a look at that Redstone in the VAB. So it's pretty much just a growth on the V2 engine that once the Americans had learned enough about the V2, the A4 engine that they had captured from the Germans, were able to make them themselves, and then they improved upon them, to some minor extent, and that's kind of when they took off. Of course, they had the help of the whole Project Paperclip, Werner von Braun team to adapt American technology to build that type of engine. So let's take a look here. So we've got the V2 on the pad, and I just want to take a look at its stats when I set it up. So this is very slightly different from my last one. All I really did was add another stage. So it's just a tiny solid rocket motor on top, and I noted down some numbers here. So without that, this stage, which is a whack stage, apparently. I had the pages open, but my brain was too tired. So pretty much everything before I added this top part, it was the V2 bumper program. So where they took captured V2s, and we're just adding this, the small upper stage to shoot it just a little higher out into space and do science. So that was the bumper program. If you want to see pictures of pretty much what I had of this rocket before, possibly without fins. I don't recall offhand. Maybe smaller fins. So this stage before, so if you look in line stage 1, so because it's up in vacuum, that's the number to look at. So the thrust weight ratio without this upper part on it, this additional stage I've added, was 2.66. So it has noticeably been impacted, but not hugely, by the addition of this extra stage. And the delta V, because it's pushing more dead weight that doesn't actually get burned in this stage, the delta V went from about 2300 down to what you see here, the 1900. So we're obviously getting a benefit from this, but because these stages are closer to the same mass, overall mass and size, if you compare to, say, V2 and the mass of those, like the thrust weight ratio of this is pretty much unimpacted by the fact that this is basically free gains to throw that on. But some of the balancing you start to see it early in an RP-0 career that you'll see in your own playthrough, where you can make an upper stage more powerful or heavier, but then that means it's more effectively dead weight that's being pushed by the stage before it, and also affects the thrust weight ratios. So you have to balance those. So starting to see kind of the realism overhaul as well as RP-0 kind of gameplay / real, like actual factual mechanics of rocketry. So let's just launch this. I believe I want to launch it pretty much straight up, right. I was trying to remember exactly what kind of mission that I wanted to fly with this. So I want to pick up just a little more science if I can. And I'm just going to pitch it just a tiny bit over this way, so that I go over the shores biome. Okay, let's see if I can open this up in the background. We're approaching Mach 1, where pretty much it doesn't make sense for me to fight the air anymore. So there we go. I just turn off the SAS, and it's basically locked in straight. So we still don't really have any control past this V2 stage, but we'll start changing that in our future rockets. See, the reason I have that Redstone sounding rocket is because I warped, what was it, 100 or so days until I got the next tech node unlocked. Okay, still not quite over the shores biome. Approaching time to warp. So I've got some more engines, but I still need some more parts to really do kind of a whole new type of mission. A lot of these missions are evolutions of the mission, a sounding rocket, then a little bit higher of a sounding rocket, one stage, and then one stage with just a little bit extra. So it's very evolutionary, which I like. That's historical. Okay, so this will just burn, just going straight, no longer really have any control. Oh, there we go. So we've got a little bit of science over shores. All right, and the stage is in fact burning. Yeah, excellent. And so the Baby Sergeant, it's a brand new stage, it's a brand new engine here. We've never used it before, so it has no data units. So in part, that's why I like to build these rockets, where just they're evolutions of previous rockets. So I add something, just one or two new things to be added to it. So temperature scan, yeah, I threw a thermometer on. So this is the Explorer probe, which I've unlocked in my tech here. And it already has, let's capture some science, Geiger counter, temperature, click, 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 whack the moles. There we go. I whacked the moles, I'm transmitting the science. Sorry, what was I saying? So it has inbuilt experiments. So it has it already has a thermometer. Hadn't noticed. Radiation temperature, radiation data, telemetry, etc. It has a bunch, and it even has its own antennas that I'm going to pop out here. Oh, and that stage, the stage is burned out, so I didn't have to be so on the ball with it, because these solid rockets, they don't need to ullage. They don't have a liquid fuel that sloshes around, just like it's an actual physically solid fuel. So I just stage, and obviously, let's go jump to the other one. With the bracket keys is how I did that fairly quickly. As long as the two craft are within kind of close range of each other, you can just use the bracket keys to switch back and forth. Just for me, they're just next to the P. There's a couple brackets, square braces, curly braces. I don't know which one is the default offhand. There we go, so we're heading up. Thermometer doesn't need to be there, but strapped to the side. So we've burned up our fuel. Don't recall offhand, so this is a solid fuel, PSPC. It's an early American solid fuel. I don't recall offhand what it stands for, but we did gain some science. So this engine is going to be a bit more reliable next time we use it, which is good, because spoiler alert, we're going to use it a lot. I'm going to skip the Vanguard type of stages, other than the second stage, which I've already been using for bumper. I'm not going to try to put a Vanguard, use a Vanguard rocket to put a Vanguard satellite into space, because it's such a light rocket. It's cool history. You can totally do that in Realism Overhaul RP-0. And I'm just going down a specific path of my own choosing. So this stage, if you looked at the numbers, and I'm going to look back in the video, you can see before I used this, what altitude we were at, and then what does that delta V give you going up. So we probably completed, that's a new record there. Yep, we completed a sounding rocket. So it's worth noting what altitude you hit in your tests or whatnot, just to keep track of what a rocket you've built is capable of, in case you do want to, or you want to or need to end up farming sounding rocket contracts, because with that you want to make as cheap a rocket as you can that can perform to known specs. So you call it sounding rocket 3, and then the little details for it. You could note that it can reach a maximum altitude of 2,200 kilometers, say. So this payload is pretty much done up. I'm just going to wait for it to break a couple of altitude records. Indeed. It'll break a few altitude records. I don't think I'm going to see any new science up this way. And then we're going to come crashing down into the United States. And persistent rotation is showing it to precess. So it kind of goes around. There's kind of a center. Over time it would average out to pointing one way, but because it has a little bit of angular momentum stored in it, it precesses around that center axis. But it just keeps going around the same. So have we leveled off yet? Time to AP? No, this is a long Was there new science? Why did the times change? Maybe I just jumped to a whoa. Whatever, it's just going to explode anyway. Am I able to get this Geiger counter data out? Only one way to find out. In the atmosphere over the water? No, I don't think so. All right. Well, fair enough. We got our science. And sunrise or sunset in the background there. It's not going to give me the normal, maybe it was because I was at warp, or no, I'm not still at warp. It's not giving me the normal option where if there's nothing in flight and you click, it pulls up the menu, tells you about the mission, and lets you quit out of it. But yeah, so I used that as a sounding rocket to go a little higher, so I'm going to make notice, I'm going to add to the details of that craft file that it was able to make 2,200 kilometers, and so in case I see any contracts where it is going to pay out more than the value of that rocket to go to that altitude, then that's what I will do. Alright, so let's just go take a quick look at contracts. You'll notice there's something that isn't showing in here that used to be showing. So for instance, I can't hit that altitude. I'll have to make something better to hit that high. And the payoff isn't that much better, so it's not worth it for me to strap a couple of my existing rockets to it. And it's not historic the way that I'm kind of proceeding. So I'll just pick up another medium. Notice, so I've selected, I am going to pursue the first artificial satellite, which pays out tons of reputation and a pretty good amount of cash beforehand and afterwards. Okay, so let's see, what text do we have? Outstanding. So early construction is on the way, just supersonic flight, just because it literally just costs 1 tech point, so no reason not to get it. And we're in the process, no upgrades, okay. We're in the process of constructing the Redstone sounding rocket. So before we end this video, let me go show you this Redstone sounding rocket. So it's a new engine that I unlocked with that with whatever was the first tech that I grabbed. I believe that same tech node gave me the Explorer 1 probe. It gave me a number of things that I definitely am happy to have. So just notice the cost of this rocket. So this, and we know what it was able to do. Actually, I'll note that in here, 22 kilometer max altitude sounding rocket. So now when I come back and check on this, I'd probably prefer to have it in the title because you can't see those details in here as far as I know. I kind of wish there's an option to like wait and hover and it shows you those details, or you right click or center click or something, because then you wouldn't just have the name and the price and the parts, etc. You'd actually have a little detail about the rocket. Something I kind of wish I'd mentioned earlier, and Nathan Kell might have had a chance to embed it. So there we go, Redstone sounding rocket. So it's twice as expensive as this. This is a 3-stage rocket, and you're going to see how simple this is. So let's show off a little bit of the history and then a little bit of the bugs. So notice the burn time. It's way longer than my V2 burn times, and that is not a mistake. So the V2 engine was only rated to run just over a minute. Whereas this, so look at the cost, 150 to 800. It's a way more expensive engine. But now we're going from just kind of stolen technology, we didn't really have to pay for the development, to kind of American-made. We have to research it, build all the hardware, build the fab, to make it. So see the maximum thrust, so 311 kilonewton, about 240 vacuum ISP. Whereas with this one, pretty similar, just 10 more points of vacuum ISP, which isn't bad at all. It gets a little more ISP, a little more thrust, but it's basically the same. And so the Russian equivalent, if you're considering doing a Soviet path, is this RD-103, which, it's got a lot more thrust. It's a bit more expensive. You can't see because I haven't spent the money to purchase it, but it's got a lot more thrust. It's just, they definitely went a lot further with this. Longer burn time. There's 2 variants that you can unlock in that. It's a pretty solid, actually pretty similar burn time to what we have here. Just under 2 minutes for that Soviet one, I think, and for this one we've got 2.5 minutes. So I think the A6 is the current variant we have, so a minute 45-second burn time, so a little over 2 minutes. So that's pretty close to what we have here, which as we want. Current Tech A6, yeah, burns ethanol 75, liquid oxygen, so it's pretty much just V2 technology, just kind of made new again, to look made by Americans. So it's more expensive. So now let's talk about the capabilities. So it's going to hit about 700 kilometers, not going to be that high for what we pay for it. But my forward strategy, so I'm going to launch this. And I'll make a recording of it, why not? Because I already have it in being built, just not in this video. So it's going to hit about 700 kilometers. It does have avionics. I hit an avionics in, like, this isn't a science rocket, really. It's just an opportunity for me to get some data on this engine. So to get it some experience, so it's more reliable for its upcoming mission, which if you've studied your history, or you might have this tingling feeling that the Juno tank I have here and this Redstone engine was used to launch the Explorer satellite. And so I've got the parts here, baby Sergeant. So there's a cluster of solids that will be used as an upper stage. This Juno 1 nose cone I'll be making use of, which will also provide the avionics. So it's going to be a lot more expensive than my earlier sounding rockets. But if I do it right, which I've done before in the past, I will be able to put my first tiny satellite into orbit using this as the first stage. But as just a first stage, it can't do very much. Like I said, it can hit a maximum of 700 kilometers. If you're familiar, or if you're not, with what the delta V you need to get into orbit in real solar system, it's about 9,500. So like not even half the number, and in practice the way these numbers work, it's not like I need to double the mass. It's a huge difference between this and 9,500. All right, but yeah, this is the rocket as I built it. Very simple, just a little avionics unit in here, threw a little extra battery in, because it's not doing anything I haven't done before. I'm not I'm not boldly going anywhere new for new science. This craft is just set up purely to get more data to make this engine more reliable. So if I center click on the engine itself, it says flight data is 0. So currently not very reliable. I can double the reliability by putting kind of more experience in it. And later on I'll also show another test flight mechanic where you can invest cash and time. So gradually you can increase the flight data without flying the rockets yourself. But I personally kind of like flying the unreliable rockets, and you'll see in some of my later missions why. And of course, if you look at the history of some of these, the first Redstones flown or the first V2 bumpers flown, like even if you just Google V2 bumper, look at the wiki page, you'll see what happened with the first V2 bumpers they flew. Failure after failure after failure. And I kind of like that. I find that like interesting, where unexpected things happen in your career, but purely that's because I've my past experience with RP-0 and what I find fun and don't find fun, right? I've done some of these basic things. I've run through the career to the moon landing using FASA and stock hardware, so I like that extra little bit of difference. So no, I don't want to save. So that's the Redstone sounding rocket that I'll be launching in my next video, and just increasing the data on that engine, and then I'll show up my build. I'll probably have enough time in that video to build the Explorer 1 Juno craft. So that will be the craft to put my first satellite into orbit in this career, hopefully. So let me just do a quick warp to sunrise, which might not actually be at sunrise. Nope. I'll have to ask Egg about that. It's probably something seasonal or something, but I just kind of wish it was always right at sunrise when you click that. Yep, no new contracts. They're still teasing me with these, although it's not a huge amount of cash to build my first airplane. Sounding rocket high. I'm still not going to hit that altitude. Maybe with my first test of the Explorer, of the Redstone Explorer, if it's worth the cost. Actually, I'm going to note that number down. Sounding rocket, so it's about 2,700 payout. Sounding rocket high. So if the cost of that rocket is below that or around that, maybe I will do that, just because. All right, but thanks for watching the video. Comment if you have any comments. Like it if you enjoy the series. Yeah, my next video I've already outlined the plan. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.